Welcome. Today we have Tim Kolk with us. Tim has been in the financial services industry for almost 30 years, working primarily in the credit card space. For the last 12 years, through TRK Advisors, Tim has helped credit card issuers build, grow, and manage their portfolios. Tim, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Larry. It's good to be here. I appreciate the time.
Great. Well, let's get started. Tim, you recently had a readout, and I believe it's an annual thing that you do of your credit card survey. Big picture, what is it your view of the credit card market today?
Well, the credit card market at its heart it's a very established, I don't want to say mature, but a very known business in this country. So in as much as it needs innovation, the innovation tends to be iterative, doesn't tend to be game buster changing. And it's an industry with a lot of inertia. And in that way, as I think about these things, it's come to me, it's not too different than maybe the auto industry, where the players change, they shuffle positions, some of them go away. You know, Buick and Oldsmobile don't exist anymore in any real way. DeLorean doesn't exist anymore, even if at one time they were snazzy and fun and new. And card is kind of like the same thing. It will be here for the foreseeable future. What it looks like will move in different directions, but a successful card issuer needs to be able to run a solid operational business while also keeping the innovations flowing to the front edge of it, not for most of the institutions we talk about as a leading innovator, but as a fast follower.
Good. All right. Well, thank you. Well, as you say, many credit unions already offer their members credit cards. So what do you see, more currently as the more attractive credit card features that are being offered?
Well, that's a pretty simple list. The devil's in what you do with it, right? So there's a baseline. If you can't do the baseline, you're not in the business. Process transactions, be up and running, service people a little bit here and there. But what really matters these days is number 1, 2, and 3 is what's your reward program like? There still are folks who don't really value rewards, but very few of them are younger. And there are very few of them to begin with these days. So you need to have a competitive reward product. But in addition to that, as kind of the big words, your card product needs to be integrated into your relationships and your systems. It can't be that other thing over there. Consumers, financial institutions, customers, they sense when it's not really in the same network, in the same web as everything else. And everything about your card program has to be easy to use, whether it's applications, whether it's redeeming a reward points or cash, whether it's getting serviced, whether it's initiating a dispute in 3 minutes on your phone. That's what cardholders know. And I think this is where the analogy to the car industry breaks down a little bit, because everybody's got 3, 4, or 5 cards. Not everybody drives 3, 4, or 5 cars.
Right.
And your own analogy is always dangerous. But I was driving a 2008 car. I got a new one. When I get out of my car, it says, "Hey, dummy, you left your phone in here." The old one didn't say that. I didn't know that would happen. But I'm never going to a car that doesn't have things like that again. And so if you don't stay on the front edge of these things, you're going to lose people. But because all these businesses, credit card has inertia in ways that other loan products don't. If you lose somebody, you don't get them back, and you don't really see it 1 by 2. But after 3, 4, 10 years, all of a sudden you realize, I'm not what I used to be in this business.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you. Well, as you well know, a successful credit card portfolio doesn't just happen all by itself. What do you see as the key best practices for managing that credit card portfolio?
Well, I think the first 2 things go hand in hand, which is determine what you're trying to do with your card business and then measure against those things. So working in the reverse order on that, having a strong performance measurement system in place. Some people call them scoreboards, scorecards, dashboards, whatever you call them. Having a card-specific set, let's call them scorecards that tracks what you're managing to is critical. And often people try to use the scorecards, their dashboards they're using for other loan products for credit card. They don't port well. Card behaves in different ways. Its revenues are generated in different ways. Its risks are different. So card-specific performance measurement systems, including full P&Ls at a product level, and a strategy that those point toward. And different strategies at different places is fine. Once you know what your strategy is, whether it be to deepen relationships, generate profitability, target specific segments. Once you have your strategy defined, the rest kind of flows out of that. And then you can use that as really the platform to identify what consumer segments you want to find to penetrate and design card products designed to do that, as well as play defense with your existing accounts, because keeping one of them in the mix is as important as finding a new one, if not more so. And then lastly, I save it for last, it's probably the most, and as much as it's all the most, is you need a card manager that has a very unusual set of skills, especially in smaller financial institutions, because this card manager is really a hub of all the other disciplines. They need to understand finance, but not be a finance person. They need to know how to do market research, but not be a marketing person. They need to know how to guide marketing people as to what kinds of portfolio management, stimulation, new account work needs to be done, but they don't need to be the person to design it and get the piece out the door. They need to be able to work with, manage, and leverage external vendors. They need to understand servicing and underwriting, not to underwrite, that should never be in the business unit, but to talk to the underwriter about what this specific business is all about. When I talk to my clients about what their card manager needs to be, I say, your card manager needs to be an expert who can talk about all these things. And all the other people, the finance, the underwriting, the collections, and so on, they need to be expert in their discipline that can talk about card. And that's the hardest part, is to find that person.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. So kind of continuing that thought, if I'm the credit union president, okay, very hypothetical, but if I'm the credit union president, okay, what is it that I need to really pay attention to in order to support the credit card team at my credit union?
All right. So this is where things often break down, even if you have the most talented product manager. And you put yourself in the seat, so I'm going to make it a hot seat for you. You need strategic clarity, the first thing. What are we seeking to achieve with this business? What do we most value? For a long time, credit unions, valued in their card business, and many still do. What are our balances, right? But it could be payment volume. It could be penetrating existing accounts. It could be bringing in new members. It could be profitability. What is your strategic priority? You need to, as the CEO or member of management team, be clear on that and not change it unless everybody talks about why it's changing and what that means. You then need to be engaged with your card manager, not as a challenger, but as a supporter, right? So you need to determine if they're working in line with the strategy and if, frankly, they have the skill set necessary. I encourage CEOs not to go in with ideas for their card manager, but to go in with questions. The dreaded elevator confluence where you can't get away from it as a card manager, where the CEO says, so what's going on in your market these days? What do we need to build out? What's not working? What scares you? And get a feel for where that person is. And if they understand what's happening outside the four walls,
Right.
Because too often they're forced to live only within the four walls. Hey, did the dispute get processed today? Yes. Well, okay, but that shouldn't be your card manager's, concern on a day-to-day basis. And then help the card manager invest resources and invest in that card manager to fill in the holes they have. No card manager has everything as far as it needs to be, even the best. So the CEO's job is to figure out where those openings are and give them opportunities to build into it. And if they're not interested, maybe you have harder decisions to make, but help your card manager become that hub. And then lastly, the CEO needs to understand card in the big picture, not individual line items. Let's take a P&L, for example, not what's my yield, not, hey, reward expense went up this quarter. Those kind of questions tend to put people on their heels and they betray, I'm not seeing. That's a common one. It's not a hypothetical I threw out there. Hey, rewards went up. I don't like it, is something the card people often hear from up on high. Well, did they go up because it's part of a new promotion to generate new accounts and everyone knew that would happen and it's actually a success? Well, if you're the CEO and that's what happened and you didn't know it and you asked the question wrong, you've really kind of derailed the whole purpose of your role supporting your card manager. So again, even like the card business, all these things circle and interact with each other, but that's what I encourage to have happen. And I've seen a lot of strides made that way, but certainly I still run into card managers who, part of my exercise with them is to educate the CEO, because their day is a nonstop barrage of seemingly random, unrelated critical questions.
Great. All right. Well, good. Well, Tim, thank you for sharing your great insights on the credit card market. It sounds like some of the keys to a successful credit card portfolio are analysis, discipline, and really kind of following through and working hard.
I don't know a business that doesn't need those things, but card as much as any and more than most.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here today, Tim.
Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it.
Great. And in closing, thank you for joining us today. If you have additional questions for Tim, please see the links in his bio.